Hey guys, Mark here. Welcome back to the channel. So I finally was able to collaborate some time with Paul Freeman and put this interview together, and it was so awesome. If you don't know who Paul is, you've been sleeping under a rock. He's been instrumental in outboard dragboat racing since day one. He's just a true gentleman, Tennessee-based fellow. Long history of the political side of outboard dragboat racing, as well as racing himself. Still races currently, multi-time champion, and just an all-around good dude and a fantastic storyteller. So I'm super excited about this. It was awesome. But I have to add one more time, I've went ahead and messed up on the editing side of things. I bought the new MacBook in hopes of being able to produce better videos and stuff. And where I made a mistake in this one was I tried to video the Zoom meeting internally on the computer, and so that I could upload it to the editor that way and the quality would be a lot better. And it just didn't work. I missed something. I apologize. I'm a mechanic. I'm not an editor. And that mixed up, Paul had a little bit of, some quality issues on the camera and his laptop too. So, but you know what, the story is great. And the best way I think to approach it is, look at it like, you could just listen to it as you're, working on something or working in the shop or something, like a podcast, because it's really, really good. So again, I apologize for the quality. I seem to be apologizing for the quality a lot lately. I'm trying to get better at it. But anyways, just enjoy the video. I know you will. Make sure you watch it to the end. I've got it in two parts. We'll get part one up here now, and then part two is coming. So make sure you follow along. Thanks. Listen, man, thank you for taking time in your busy schedule. I know you and I have talked about trying to put this together, and you've been dealing with some weather and whatnot up there, and we've been busy, but we're finally here. So while I've got you here, I have to ask, what got you involved in outboard dragboat racing?
Well, fast bass boats. I traded a 72 Chevrolet Cheyenne pickup to a bass boat, and then went from there to a Pro Craft, and then from that to a 17-foot bullet, and played with that a little bit. And a buddy of mine, we went up to a local dealer, and I was out looking at some other stuff. I come back in the door, and he's sitting in a 17-foot bullet and said, buy this, I'll make you famous. And of course, he was making fun of me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I bought that little boat, and that was our first bullet. Then we traded it for our second bullet. And in the meantime, in the 80s, we were following Ray Anderson around, Anderson Marine Racing Nashville. He's basically who got me started in modifying engines and doing a lot of work for me. I blowed up the 200 and got one from him. And I walked around the corner of his shop, little house there where he was at back in the day, and he had a STV sitting there. Well, that sparked my interest quite a bit. And so got to watching him, and he started talking about the Mod VP, IOGP stuff. And we went doing that and done that for 7 or 8 years. And heard about some guys down in Alabama doing some drag racing. And so me and my wife, I said, come on, I'll show you. I didn't want to really do the round track stuff because of pretty dangerous. I've seen a lot of guys get run over, that kind of thing. And but I really enjoyed that stuff. Met a lot of good people. Met all the Mercury people there, the Mercury truck. And so basically, we went to Gaston, Alabama, and we watched the drag boat racing down there, and outboards, of course. And I said, I think this is what I want to do. And she said, this all it is to it? Well, she was used to the round track stuff. And I said, yeah. She said, well, if you'll build me a swimming pool, you can go drag boat racing. So here we are. Anyway.
That's great.
That's the way that started. And, of course, that went on for a while. And then, a little bit we ran a couple of seasons with a little bullet, and went to an SCV. Ray Anderson found me an SCV.
Yeah.
started with that, and Ray Anderson was on board, a guy named Joe Myers, Jonathan Woods, some of our local guys here, Eddie Holbrook, Bobby Warren, my brother Jerry, he was our first starter. So we had a big time with that. I've done that for about 5 years, and I have to back up a little bit on the riverbank in St. Louis. I met one of my best friends, and he was an Allison guy, and I was a Bullet guy. And we're sitting on the bank, and I was eating a bag of cookies. And he said, "You gonna eat all those cookies?" I just lost. There you are. Yes, and I said, "Yeah." And anyway, he and I to this day are probably best friends I got. But we go back and forth talking about racing and stuff. But the guy's name's David Harden, and he's getting back in it. Got out for a while, and he's getting back in it now. And but anyway, had to get a click in for Dave. We talk about every day, and we talk about racing and the political end of it. So anyway, we started with the TDBA and run the little Bullet for maybe a season. And Ray Anderson found me an STV, and started driving an STV and got going that way, and just, it built up. There's a lot of stuff that went on there. We did really well, TDBA did, and then like everything else, it slows down a little bit, and sure. Then we came up with the OCS, me and another guy that was the president of TDBA at that time, but I think TDBA had me and 3 or 4 more guys that was president of it. And then, of course, it went to that OCS, which was 2 races a year and 3 organizations. Dwayne Robry was a big part of that. David Berry down in Texas, Fort Worth. And, of course, Dwayne is a superb engine builder in Louisiana. And a guy named Charles Hobart, and out of Alabama. And Charlie died suddenly in an accident over in Jasper. I think had a little heart trouble or something. But anyway, we done the OCS, and then we started the Outboard Dragboat Association in around 2000. And then, of course, a lot of help on that. Had a meeting in Jackson, Mississippi, and the key players in all that stuff was huge. Galen Burden, David Berry, Bruce Tripp. Bruce Tripp's out of North Carolina, South Carolina. There was so many people there that was had a lot of stuff going on with ODBA. First getting that thing started and off the ground. Yeah. And it took off running.
And I think if I can jump in quick, and with ODBA, I know that you were instrumental in bringing Mercury factory racing rig to the races. There was speed vision coverage too. I think you had a big part in that, if not all of that. So I'd like to kind of hear about that. If you want to touch on that, that'd be awesome.
There's a lot of history, Mark, that it'd take forever to go over it. I'm just sort of skimming across the top of it, but when I was playing with Ray on the IOGP circuit in the early days, I become great friends with a lot of guys at Mercury. Mark Marisi and Fred Hallenstein and Dennis Cavanaugh, who was the prop guy, and he built me some propellers. And anyway, I got to where I could get on the Mercury truck at the IOGP races. And I kept telling them guys, I said, man, y'all need to come to one of our races, And so I got them to come to the Winchester race. Actually, I got a sign on the door over here. It was July 21st, 22nd, 2001. And I believe they showed up at that one. And then they showed up at Jasper. And, man, what a thrill to see that truck come around that corner up there and down that hill. I mean, it makes the hair stand up on my arms now. And, of course, about that same time, I, along with another guy or two, got to talking about putting the outboard drag boat racing on TV. And I'm like a dog on a rag, man. I get a hold of something, I take off with it. And anyway, I got that working with Speed Vision, and I almost made ESPN with it. And then it went to the Outdoor channel, and those people helped us great, great, just unbelievable. We had a guy out in California that produced all this stuff and filmed all the races. Of course, we had to raise quite a bit of money to get these races on TV.
Yeah, I don't.
And I made a bunch of trips. I went to St. Louis. I went to Milwaukee. A bunch of places to try to raise funds to actually get the money to put these shows on. Mm-hmm. And I think Mark, I got your son Mark. I got a bunch of videos. I'm gonna try to get on disc for that kid.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we had a big deal in that, and that was a lot of fun. And that's about the time I met Wally Lampkin.
Oh, I was gonna go there next. And man, when we were down in Bainbridge, you and I and a bunch shared some parking lot stories, and I was hoping that you would touch in on some of those because they were pretty funny. Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many.
Yeah, sir.
Wally's just a flat out genius, dude. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. What he could do. The first time I ever met Wally. Now I think I told y'all, but I'll tell you again. We was at Jasper, and it's a Grand National race, and we was running that blue STV, and by mistake I had figured out something to do with that boat to make it faster right out on the end, and they was weighing us, and my guy that was helping me that time, he said, "Man, they were just tearing that boat apart looking for stuff," and it was just awesome on the big end. The last 200 feet, it was just big in charge. And this guy standing beside of me, he had a white beater T-shirt on, and long beard, and long hair, and a pair of sandals, and I think he even had a cup, solo cup in his hand. And this kid beside him, he said, "What are they doing?" I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, they never figure out what we're doing. And this guy standing beside of me, which was Wally, he said, "I know what you're doing in that southern draw is." I said, "You do?" And I looked around at him. I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What was I doing?" He said, "Well," you're getting out on the big end and getting that thing up in the air and bumping the down button and getting the back end up, and the thing would take off. I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "There's only one thing I can't figure out." And I said, "What?" I said, "You're doing pretty good." He said, "How you slowed when it started to slow down, how you didn't kill you fool self. We're barrel rolling the thing." So that was our first meeting. Oh. And but I don't know, a couple of months later or the next season, I think I went to Sioux City, Iowa, to an APBA event to watch one of his boats run. And I never seen one of them, and went up and watched it run. And the Johnson boys up there, Gordy and Tom. Now, I don't know if they had the boat or one of their friends had the boat, but we went and watched the thing. We raced our little STV. We come back and call Wally. That was the start of our relationship for 15 years, 14, working with Wally, driving the boat, going places with him. Mm-hmm. Getting him into his new shop. But he would, one of the things about Wally, he was laying under a boat down there one night, and I walked up, and another guy walked up there, and he was laying on that boat, rubbing on it. And he just scooted out from under it. And he looked up at us, and he said, "You need something?" No. But Wally's so innovative with what he did. We actually, one time we built a new boat, and John Lynchcow, great friend of mine, and I don't know if you've ever met Jonathan, but John was campaigning in Allison, and he wanted to try it. And Wally had just built me my second one, And Wally calls me up one day and he said, man, I got a guy that wants this thing, John Liscow. He wants this boat. I said, well, let him have it and build me another one. So that's what we did. But in the meantime, Wally was working on I guess you could call it a hydrofoil. That it was on a ratchet device that went out the side of the boat in front by the side of the motor. And it was wings. And we built all the mechanism for it, all the hardware, made the wings, a hydrofoil, some kind of a hydrofoil wing. I went in the shop down there one Saturday morning and those things was laying in the floor cut up. And I said, Wally, I done spent about $1,000 on this mechanism. I said, what's this? He just looked at me and he said, you want to die? I said, no. He said, well, I don't need to explain it. Turn around and walked off. I said, okay. He built the DX. When he built the DX, DeWitt, Louise, and I, and some of his guys we was there for the initial debut of that boat on the lake down there at Clark Hill where Wally's at. And I got in it first and, man, turned that thing around, 115 miles an hour, just spun it around. And so DeWitt got in it. He done the same thing. And I don't know what it was, but anyway, Wally fixed that. But I show you how crazy we were, how we wanted to fix stuff. I get out in a little John boat. DeWitt comes at me a few feet off the boat, and I've got a camera down on the water, and we're filming the bottom of that boat. And the old guy on the bank told Wally, he said, we didn't know which one was crazier, the one in the John boat or the one driving the other boat. But Wally worked all night on that thing. We went back the next day and got that out of it. But he actually started 2 more boats. He started a V-bottom. He got it started, but he ain't gone any farther with it. But I don't know. He is the main character on my Allison.
Yeah, I remember you telling me the story about delivering it down there. Yeah.
That story was pretty cool. I mean,
yeah, I like that.
But anyway, he worked on that thing for a while, and of course he worked on my gear case.
Yeah. And
between the bottom and the gear case, and then and as you well know, Billy Eads, Guru Billy Eads,
sure.
On a propeller. Billy and I worked close on propellers, and bottom of the boat, propeller, understanding the way the boat works. Wally taught me a lot of stuff about hydrodynamics and aerodynamics. Mm-hmm. When the boat turns loose, when the aerodynamics take over, how it works, what it does, when it does it, how to feel what it does. Of course, center of gravity is a lot with it. But he would set me in a Triad with a 2x4 running left to right underneath the cockpit, full gear. He'd pick me up, of course, set me down on this 2x4, and I'd be holding on to the stern wheel. And he'd say, now take one hand off the stern wheel and put it around the back of your head. You do that, and the boat would tilt back. And you do the front, do it that way to the front. And I'd sit there and balance myself on that beam, which is 1.5 inches wide, with that whole boat motor and everything on, no fuel in it.
Yeah.
But we sit there and balance on that thing and practice the feel of that boat, what it does.
Yeah.
Study videos for hours on what it's doing underneath. So a lot of work went into it.
Yeah. I like the story. I'd like you to touch on the story about Wally selling you the boat so that your wife couldn't sue him. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah,
the DR20.
Yeah. I'll get back. We went down there. I went down and called him after I went to Sioux City, and I went down and went in his shop. And what people's got to understand, Wally built these boats. The first mold was built in a little garage that he had to open both doors on both ends to run the planer.
Wow.
And he'd have to push the part of it that he was making outside to make the others. But when I went down, he had the bottom of the boat sitting in the floor. And course, he made me get in it, and I didn't know what he was up to. And he had a seat sitting there. Now, he said, "This is the steering wheel," handed it to me. Hold it right there. Is this where you want to see the seat? Yeah. So anyway, he said, okay. So he built that boat, and basically I drove for Triad pretty much. Wally sold me the boat just ridiculously cheap. And he said, "Here, you need to sign this paperwork." I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, it proves you on the boat, and if it kills you, your wife can't sue me.
Yeah, you shared that with us in Bainbridge. I laughed. So, I mean, there were so many stories that night, and I'm sure you've got hundreds more. And man, I just find the Wally ones. I've never met him, unfortunately, and but I've heard so much, and it's just so cool to hear these stories. It's awesome, very, very cool.
One other one I'll touch on, and we had a couple of boats go over, and so Wally was very sentimental about his boats and very conscious about what he was doing with the boat and who was in it. And basically what he would do is build that bottom of that boat for the capability of the driver that could drive it. And, there's a lot of difference in a lot of drivers. So anyway, we was testing one day, and he was really concerned about a boat going over with one of our friends in it. And, actually, nobody ever got hurt too bad, as far as I know. Actually, nobody got hurt hardly at all, because Albert Bouchard blowed mine over, the old one that I had, at about $1.25, and all he got was a little scratch out of it. He done a full 360. But the boat, I told him one day, I said, "Well, I'll show you what the boat can do." So I run into the wind and over trimmed the boat and got it in the air, and sort of it done a little wave and back down, and then I turned around with the wind at my back and done the same thing, and he's screaming on the radio at the same time, "Don't do that, don't do that, don't do," he's when I pulled in on the trailer, he had tears in his eyes. I said, "Wow," I said, "it's one of the safest boats out here," so any boat can go over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just ask Greg Kitty.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, the guy is just unbelievable talented, and what he could do and what he can do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So, but there's and what he's got my boat doing.
Unreal. Now, Paul, did the Allison come after the DR? I know you drove the DR20s with Wally for a while, and then did you have something in between those and the Allison, or like what brought on you purchasing an Allison?
I sold all my stuff out, and I was tired. When you're in the political end of boat racing and trying to boat race and help with the political end of stuff, one or the two is going to suffer.
Yeah.
So I just got very tired and wanted to break. So I sold all my stuff out. Thought I wanted to quit, but literally love outboard dragboat racing. And I went motorcycle riding, sports bikes on a road course. Done that for 4 or 5 years. Crashed big time or two, and spent a little time in intensive care. And anyway, so Jerry, my brother, he's got a little stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they got it held back. And he come in the shop here one day, and he said, "I think I want to go boat racing." I said, "Okay." So all we had left was one little motor, and so we started looking for a boat and found an STV over in North Carolina, and went and picked it up, and got back. Come actually on the way back with it. And my friend, David Harden, he calls me up and he says, "Man, I found you an Allison." And I said, "Well, I don't want no Allison." He said, "It's a good boat." And a guy named Colin Hall in East Tennessee had this boat built new. And so David told me where it was at. I called the guy, made a trade with him, and we got a hold of it. And that's when I called Wally because Wally had worked on one for a guy named Cam Henderson, and the boat's super fast. And I think Jamie Jordan's got that boat now, and he's going to be somebody to reckon with in Super Comp. I'll just tell you, that boat's really fast. And so I wanted Wally to work on mine like he did on Cam's. And Wally didn't want to do it. And so I called him up and I said, hey, man, I want you to look at this boat, bottom of this boat. I don't want to look at that boat, he said. And it's just Wally. And, I said, well, it's about 5.5 hours from here to his shop. I said, I'll come down Saturday morning if you'll just look at it 2 minutes. That's all I want you to do. Tell me what you think. I'll go home. He said, don't pull that thing around the shop. Just pull in the gate and don't come any further. And so anyway, I get down there. He shows up. He crawls under it. He comes back out from under it. And he says, well, I had a plan, basically. Yeah. I want him to work on it. And he calls out from under that thing. He said, ain't nothing wrong with this boat. He said, this boat's jam up. It's a good one. And I said, yeah. I said, well, okay, Wally, what owe you? I'm out of here. I'm going to leave. Yeah. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going back to Tennessee. I said, you done told me what I wanted to hear. And he's like, well, what are you in a hurry for? I said, well, I got to go, and I know you don't want to deal with it. And he said, well, pull it around back. Right. We pull the boat in the garage, and we pick it up, and he's standing under it looking at it. And I said, you don't have to do this, Wally. He said, well, if you done this and you done this and you done this, the boat would do this, 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 and this. I said, well, wait, what would it cost to do that? And he told me. I said, well, why don't you just do it? And so I knew then I had him hooked. So I went out in the truck and got some cash and brought it back, and I left. That was in December. He called me the 1st of April, and he said, hey, you want this boat? Because I hadn't talked to him the whole time. I just let him alone and turned him loose and let him do his thing. Yeah. And so went and got the boat and sent him some money along the way, and then took him some more money when we got done. And he, of course, he watched the boat run, see what it does. But then we started working. He started building my gear cases outside of my gear cases, and we've got. Actually, the 3rd generation, we got the 1st generation. The 2nd generation didn't work. You couldn't slow it boat down. It would spin on you. Yeah. And I think we spun it 6 times at 106 miles an hour with that other gear case. And that's when Wally told some lady was scaring her to death on the dock. And Wally said, don't worry, ma'am. He's a professional driver.